Hello, everyone. My name is Camry Wilborn. I'm the Assistant Director for Community Partnerships in the Office of Civic and Community Engagement at Wake Forest University. And I want to welcome you all to our first Get Connected to Wake Forest event of the semester. We are so excited to have you join with us tonight and learn a little bit more about some opportunities and initiatives at the university and how you might be able to connect. Before we get started, I want to do just a quick overview about the Office of Civic and Community Engagement, tell you a little bit about who we are, update you on some of the things that we've been up to over the past year, and how this event really connects to the larger mission of the things we're trying to accomplish. So the Office of Civic and Community Engagement is really the hub for all community engagement activity at the university. And so in our motto, in the spirit of Pro Humanitate, we want to engage partners like you. We want to engage our faculty and staff and our students to create meaningful social change. And so our mission is to really leverage the resources of the university to build capacity, to incubate community initiatives, and to allow our stakeholders at the university to serve you all in the community. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those ways and those initiatives that we have to offer over the next hour and a half today. Our office is comprised of 3 different areas, and I'll talk a little bit about what those mean in just a second. But we have a community partnerships area, we have our service and leadership area, and we have our social justice education area. And we really came to these 3 focus areas after doing a needs assessment a couple years ago and figuring out kind of what are the initiatives we are working on at the university, where do they live, and what are the kind of themes. And so during that assessment, we found that our 3 focus areas, or the buckets where most of the work was happening, was in 3 different areas. So educational equity and access, health and nutrition, and then economic mobility. And so while these things are our 3 focus areas, it doesn't mean that, you know, our office is not engaged in other issues or in other topics that don't neatly fall into those 3. It's just a way to communicate to partners that these are the 3 places where most of the work at our university and in our office is happening. In addition to those focus areas, again, we have these 3 functional areas that we focus on in our office. And so community partnerships is one. It is the newest area of our office. We also have service and philanthropy. And so that particular segment focuses on direct service and raising funds for particular initiatives. And then we have our advocacy and social justice area. And so I'm a part of the community partnerships team. And so over the past year, my colleague Shelly and I have really worked hard to figure out how we connect to new partners, how we facilitate and maintain our relationships with partners in the community, and how we ensure that everybody who wants to connect with Wake Forest knows about the resources that are available and can easily connect to the person that is in charge of that particular program or initiative. And so we've been doing a series of things to make that happen and to get folks connected. We've kind of created a streamlined process over the past year for folks who may not know where to start, may not know who to contact, but want to connect with somebody at the university, whether it's our office or another department or program or initiative. And so the 3 steps are really simple. So there is a form on our website that allows you to get connected to us. It will list all of the resources that are available at the university and some ways that you can connect with us. After people fill out that form on our website, within 48 hours, somebody from the community partnerships team actually responds to you and says, hey, do you want to right now meet virtually and talk a little bit about getting connected to make sure that we can connect you to the appropriate person. And so after we have that meeting, learn a little bit about what your needs are and who you need to be connected to, then we're able to really facilitate that connection to the appropriate project or contact person at the university. So again, today you're going to hear from some of the folks on campus that we might be connecting you to if you come to us for particular projects. And so we're super, super excited to hear from them. These are all different offices or departments that are connected to the university that are running and conducting community-based programs and projects. And so they're going to present for about 10 minutes each. If you have questions about a particular project or want to learn more information, please use the chat feature and the Q&A feature. At the end of the presentations, I will pose those questions to the appropriate panelists. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our first office, Wake Downtown.
Great, thanks, Camry. My name is Rebecca Alexander. It's great to be with all of you tonight. I am a chemistry professor. I'm also the director of Wake Downtown and the associate dean for research and community engagement. And so hopefully all of you know where Wake Downtown is and what it is. If you don't know, Wake Downtown is the university's academic location for some new undergraduate programs and research labs in the heart of Winston-Salem. So right adjacent to Bailey Park and across from the Bailey South Power Plant. Under normal times, I would say come by, we'll show you around, but that's why we're doing this virtually tonight. And we look forward to welcoming you soon. Mostly what we focus on are science outreach programs for people of all ages. We've done activities for kids on the lawn at Bailey Park. We've invited school groups into the building when we could do such things and look forward to doing more of that in the future. So we've had to be creative over the last year, as we all have. And so my colleagues, Alana James and Yasmin Shaltout, are going to explain what we've been doing the last year or so, what we are doing in the near future, and how we'd love to have you involved in any way in the near term or the long term, but especially as it regards science activities, even STEAM, so science and art together, and community activities kind of around that area. So we look forward to working with you in some way in the future.
All right, well, thank you, Rebecca. My name is Alana James. I'm the Associate Director for Community Engagement at Wake Downtown. And I'm actually going to spend a good bit of time talking about one of our new and in progress programs that we're very excited about. It's called Friends in STEM. We developed the program because, as Rebecca said, we're unable to welcome well, really anyone, but especially younger guests into our building for lab tours and STEM demonstrations as we normally would. But Friends in STEM is a mentorship program that will match school-age children from the Boys and Girls Club in grades 3 through middle school with a mentor or friend in STEM who is an undergraduate or graduate student from Wake Forest. And we've recruited through undergraduate student groups like Women in STEM and graduate student groups like Wake Up to Science, which is a scientific communication focused group, and the Brain Awareness Council, which is students who are focused on neuroscience. We've also received interest from a group of high school student STEM enthusiasts through the Winston-Salem Opportunity Project. And we were very excited because we felt like we could do some tiered or scaled mentor matches by age. For example, if you are a younger high school mentor, you will be paired with a younger student mentee, probably in 3rd or 4th grade. And so our goal is for our mentors to foster the students' excitement for science, to provide encouragement and support, and to share resources and tips on how you can study these topics at a higher level. And eventually, our goal is for those mentees to pursue a career in STEM. These mentor-mentee pairs will commit to participating in a weekly virtual mentoring session for an hour. And they'll have prompted discussion questions. Sometimes it will be related to general topics like current events. Virology is very popular right now. And sometimes it will be related to their own particular interests as a pair. But participating students will also occasionally receive STEM activity kits to complete with their mentors virtually, of course, for now. And we're very, very grateful to be partnering with graduate students in the Biomedical Engineering Society to develop the curriculum and to assemble these kits. So far, they've created kits related to DNA extraction. There have been design challenges like building bridges and kits related to osmosis. So it really runs the gamut of topics and hoping to spark interest in students. They're also recording instructional videos and have worksheets to accompany each kit as well. So really hoping that this is an opportunity to have not just a topic-based discussion for the mentors and mentees, but also some activities to really get them thinking creatively and having fun together. The goal is to also get the full group together, perhaps in age-based sections for some fun group discussions or virtual demonstrations by a community member, a faculty member, or even one of the mentors who wants to discuss their work or research in a kid-friendly way. So, given the uncertainty of the times, we do expect to match pairs as mentees become interested, but we would love to have a really large pool of trained mentors available so that we can do this on a rolling basis. The mentor training will include best practices for strong mentor relationships. We'll also go through background checks and reporting and the ways that we'll be supporting as a team. And this will again happen on a rolling basis so that there's more than one opportunity to participate. We're all about flexibility at the moment, and we certainly miss welcoming students and young scientists into our space, but really hoping that this gives us a way to not only utilize the great volunteer participation that we have with our students, but also to make sure that there's some fun, enriching things for students to do together. So if this sounds like something that you or someone that you know would find interesting, please sign up to do so. You can email me, or if the deck is sent out, there's a form that is linked on our slide. And additionally, for community partners, if you'd like to contribute by virtually hosting a demonstration or a talk, please don't hesitate to reach out. So we're very excited about this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yasmin Shoutout.
Thank you, Alana. Hello, everyone. I'm Yasmin. I'm the Wake Downtown Fellow. I'm excited to share a little bit with you about our new student group first, which is called the STEM Inclusion Advisory Board. So this board was created towards the end of last summer in response to a conversation with a student who was feeling unsupported, and in light of a nationwide discussion on racial equity. This conversation was opened up to additional students who requested an action-oriented safe space to discuss issues related to diversity, inclusion, and equity, particularly within STEM, while also crafting a space where marginalized students can benefit from each other's peer support. So the overall purpose of this group is to more accurately reflect the experiences of all Wake students, staff, and faculty who come from very different backgrounds but share a love for science, technology, engineering, and math throughout their time at Wake. So some of the goals of this group so far include mentoring younger STEM students and being a point of contact for STEM professors who would like to consult with students on any matters related to diversifying their classroom. Currently, it is a board of 5 students, which are the original 5 students who initiated this conversation, and it's in the very early planning stages. But I am very happy to share that as of yesterday, we have 20-something new applicants, so it's certainly growing, and we're hoping to divide those students into committees soon for a more targeted approach. So that being said, if you come across any undergraduate students who are thinking of pursuing STEM and who might benefit from either being a participant in this or from having a mentor and gaining some peer support, please feel free to send them our way. Likewise, if you become in contact with a campus or community entity, or if you are a campus or community entity that does work surrounding inclusion in STEM, if you know of lecturers or exhibit opportunities, please do share those as well. I'm sure the board would be excited to partner with anyone on those matters. I'm the point of contact for that group for the time being, so any of those sorts of communications can be directed at me. And last but certainly not least, Wake Downtown has begun planning for this year's Maya Angelou Garden Party, which is an annual event held at Bailey Park to honor the life and legacy of Maya Angelou. Due to public health concerns, the event will be virtual, just as it was last year. So last year, the previous Wake Downtown Fellow, Daniel Oberti, put together an awesome podcast honoring Dr. Angelou, which you can access on our website and is also linked in this slide. This year, I'd like to add a visual element to that celebration for a deeper virtual experience. So I'll be putting together a mini documentary with a post-party virtual panel that will feature some of the speakers from the video. So like I mentioned, this event is normally held in Bailey Park, right across from Wake Downtown. It's outdoors, it's very interactive, and I'm hoping that a video and a panel will allow us to include some of those collaborative and coming together moments, while also allowing us to include a wider array of artistic expressions and adding a conversational atmosphere where guests can have the opportunity to interact with the featured speakers and ask questions and such. So that being said, if you'd like to read a poem, perform a piece, share artwork, or participate in any other way to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Maya Angelou, there is a live form linked on the slide. So please feel free to fill that out. If this slide deck doesn't go out, also feel empowered to email me with any sorts of questions. Perfect. Thank you, Camry. So feel free to sign up there through the form, and you can always email me with questions or concerns as well. Thank you all for being here tonight, and we look forward to partnering with you on all things science, art, and innovation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for inviting me. Thank you, Camry, and your office for inviting me to present. Wake Forest School of Medicine. I am Keena Moore with the Program in Community Engaged Research with the Clinical and Translational Science Institute Department at Wake Forest. And okay, I don't see, okay, I don't know. So I apologize. The program in community, I'm the administrator for the program in community engaged research. And one of the mechanisms or things that we offer, especially to community, is our funding mechanisms, is one of our opportunities to engage and then have a direct impact to the community, doing helping foster like academic and community research relationships and collaborations. And so we do that with 3 different levels, I would say, of funding mechanisms. And so, you know, we realize that, you know, it's not a lot of money, but we hope that these funding opportunities can provide some pilot data for community partners as well as academic researchers to go on to solidify larger funding. And with that said, we have a Community Engaged Boost Award, a Community Engaged Cooperative Agreement, and a fellowship opportunity. And so our Boost Award is just a $5,000 award that's awarded quarterly. And the applications are ongoing, but we'll have deadlines set various times throughout the year. Our next one is October the 12th. And that will be a midnight deadline. And so the cooperative agreement, the Boost Award is just only for community-based organizations. So academic partners cannot apply for this particular award. And so it's to help, you know, fund maybe gift cards or some type of incentives to help with, you know, survey retention, or, you know, or buy equipment. If I just had $5,000 to buy a new software to help do with evaluation, my data will be more robust, more clean, you know, help. We've bought this sensors for vaping that go into some bathrooms in the school system to look at bullying and tobacco and vaping usage in high schools, you know, from blood pressure cuffs for different various projects. Our current Boost awardee is from Winston-Salem State. They're doing a research project analyzing the long-term impact of incarceration here in Forsyth County. And so those funds will be utilized to as an incentive for completing the surveys. And so we realize it's not a lot of money, but we hope that it will help community organizations become comfortable with doing research, and also help get some data. You know, a lot of times it's those small barriers. Before COVID, you know, it could have been used for, if I could just feed my participants, I'll have a higher retention rate, you know, or, you know, maybe people would come because I could feed and they could bring their children, and it would be more, you know, addressing some of the barriers to engaging with community. And so our cooperative agreements are $30,000 award that's awarded annually. The letter of intent for that will be due October the 15th. And really this award is as an academic investigator partner with a community-based organization to work collaboratively. And it could be to evaluate something like a program with a community-based organization. They want some help evaluating their program, their services, and in seeing impact, or it's to work on addressing the concern, of course, for the community. Our current awardee is Dr. Callie Brown, and her community partners are United Health Centers and Share, which is a food cooperative, and they're actually really doing a unique project to doing a food prescription project to help address, chronic medical conditions. And so we've had people to do assessments on, partner with community organizations to do assessments on the health of adolescent and young adult women, African American women in East Winston. So really it's to help foster relationships between an academic partner and a community partner as well. And the research fellowship is different in that it pays 10% effort for both the academic investigator and the community partner to actually work together. A lot of time is a restraint from engaging in doing community to do research. And so we hope that 10% is not a lot, but if you can designate this time to work collaboratively, again, whether it's on evaluation or addressing a health concern, other community, we hope that, it's a help foster relationships and strengthen long-term partnerships. And the fellowship that we currently have is a really strong. They were awarded, renewed for a second year. It's Dr. Kimberly Montez is partnering with Hope of Winston-Salem, and they have a great partnership to, first, it was what a city eats, and do an assessment on, because Hope delivers food on the weekends. And so they were evaluating what foods the community members that they were targeting, do they really like them, and assessing them. And since then, they've done some changes and been able to have a larger participation from community to actually utilize and coming out regularly to get fresh fruits and vegetables on the weekends. And also, their partnership has spun out of that. They've been able to build and get awarded a Duke Endowment. They've done some publications. That's just been really a good ideal, in ideal world, what we hope to have grow from the fellowship. And so just wanted to give you guys a little idea of how the mechanisms can be utilized. We always say, before applying, you may want to consider doing a consultation. We can help brainstorm ideas. If you're a community partner and maybe you're not ready to do a cooperative agreement, but you're interested in doing a boost award to evaluate or, provide some support to a research project that you're interested in, a boost award would be an ideal thing. But hey, what if you're a community partner and you're ready, to evaluate more robustly your program and initiatives, but you just don't have an academic partner? Our goal is to also help facilitate collaborative relationships. And so if you're interested in our funding mechanisms, it's a larger explanation can be found on our website. And you can also contact me as well to request a consultation, and you can meet with myself or our team to, brainstorm new ideas and help connect and facilitate a strong partnership and a strong application. Again, I'm Keena Moore, and with the program and community engagement, and thank you all for your time.
Hello, my name is John Senior. I am Assistant Dean of Vocational Formation at the School of Divinity at Wake Forest. Thank you all for inviting me and my colleague Natalie Aho to present tonight. My main area of responsibility is what we call the Art of Ministry program, on the next slide, which is the required internship component of our Master of Divinity curriculum. So all of our students in the Master of Divinity program have to do two 200-hour ministry internship placements in 3 years. And the 3-year program process, and they can do those in congregational, nonprofit, chaplaincy, and other kinds of settings, either during the academic year, which is a format that runs from August through May, or during the summer, which runs from May to August. Both of those are 200 hours. The summer placements function a little bit more like a full-time kind of experience because students have time and space to do that, whereas the academic year format is part-time. The first thing I want to say about this is that we define ministry in a pretty broad frame. One of our goals at the School of Divinity is to train what we call agents of justice, reconciliation, and compassion, and we are aware that that kind of work can happen in lots of different spaces, not just congregations or faith-based settings. So we want our students to be able to exercise leadership in a wide variety of places where those values are being realized. So I'm always interested to build relationships with new community partners who are doing interesting things in nonprofit work, in congregational work, or anything else that touches on those values that I mentioned before. As part of our internship process, we offer a mentor training program. The internship is where we hope that the knowledge that students learn in their coursework starts to become the wisdom that emerges in practice and intentional reflection on practice. And that happens in relationship with wise mentors who have themselves developed some wisdom about the work that they do. So we have a pretty extensive mentor training process that introduces what we call mentor supervisors, that would be you, to the supervisory role, which is more kind of managing the nuts and bolts of the internship, but also the skills and practices of mentoring, which is helping students to figure out their identity as leaders, helping them to learn about the skills and practices of leadership that are relevant in your setting, and also helping them to kind of learn how to think theologically and philosophically about the work that they're doing. There's a lot more I could say about our internship program. I think one detail that is probably important for you all is that we don't require that internship settings pay students stipends. Students get course credit for their internship work. So their internship work is, we sort of view it as the homework that they do for those courses. But we certainly encourage internship settings to provide some support if they can. The reason why we do that is that we found that if we require stipends, then smaller organizations that aren't able to do that can't participate in our program. The School of Divinity also has some funding to support students, but that is all to say that if you're an organization who doesn't have those kind of resources, that doesn't mean you can't participate in our internship program. I would say that if you want to hear more about that, you can just get in touch with me at the email there or the phone number, or when the slide deck comes out, you can click on that link to my calendar and just make an appointment, and we'll meet by Zoom. The other piece I'm responsible for that's relevant to this conversation is our faith-based nonprofit certificate program, which I co-developed and co-lead with my colleague, Steve Virgil in the law school. That is a program that introduces students not only to the nuts and bolts of nonprofit leadership, but also explores the questions around what difference does it make that we bring kind of a faith-based perspective to the work of nonprofit leadership. We've offered this certificate in a number of different formats. Most recently, it's been in a hybrid in-person online format where we've met in Charlotte at the Charlotte Center and then done online pieces in between. We haven't offered it since the pandemic started, so I'm not sure what form it will take. It may be the next time around purely online, but we try to make it flexible so that folks who are interested in this from all over our region and beyond can participate. Again, if that's something you'd like to learn more about, you can click on that link and or set up a time to talk with me. Be happy to talk with you about that. I'm going to turn this over to Natalie Aho, my colleague, who's going to talk about some of our continuing education and co-curricular programming.
Thanks, John. As John said, I'm Natalie, and it's great to be with all of you this evening. I am the new program manager for the Baptist Commons at Wake Divinity, a program that just began in the middle of a pandemic. And in addition to starting that program off, I am also the project director for these programs that I will be speaking with you about today. The first one is our Clergy in Community program. This is a grant-funded program that identifies an opportunity for early career ministers, those in their first 5 to 10 years of ministry, to learn leadership skills in order to connect with civic leaders. That would be business leaders, politicians, those serving in government roles, those serving in nonprofit roles, other types of organizations helping to serve a community. We currently have a cohort running, but if you are someone or know someone who might want to participate as a member of that program, we're hoping to either launch it this fall or the following year, depending on the pandemic and how all of that shakes out. But more likely, you may be a civic leader that we may want to connect with. These individuals can speak to our clergy about their work. And of course, that covers any range of ways that you serve your community. So if you see yourself filling that type of role for us, I would love to connect with you. I failed to put my email address on the slide, but I would be happy to provide it for you if that's something you're interested in. We do anticipate that this program will become a continuing education opportunity in the future, and that down the road, it will probably be the type of program that will be available not just to clergy, but anyone who would like to learn more about civic engagement from a theological and faith-based perspective. So stay tuned on that. This program is running through 2025, so it'll be a couple of years until we'll be making more announcements about that information. Second program listed here is called Thriving in Ministry. And this is also a grant-funded program that is targeted to help clergy or ministers in any type of faith setting. So some who are serving in congregational settings and some who serve as ministers in other ways, to learn how to thrive in their place of ministry and service. We actually just launched a new cohort for this calendar year. So those applications are currently closed. But we do anticipate a second and third round for calendar years 22 and 23, and normally those will open in the fall. These ministers have an opportunity to work with mentors, and then we are also providing them access to various types of what we're loosely calling coaches. So therapists, spiritual directors, financial educators, physical trainers, and leadership coaches. And then our mentors also work with them in settings, and they have an opportunity to learn more didactic information about thriving and leadership skills and other types of ways that they can elevate what they're doing in their particular ministry setting. So again, you may be someone who would want to participate or know someone who would like to participate, and stay tuned to when we will be developing our next cohort for that possibility. The third program is one that we were very fortunate just to receive a notification in November that we are grant recipient for Thriving Congregations. Initially, this program will probably be by invitation only, but down the road, we do foresee that this program would be something both open to applicants during the grant period, and then something we hope to turn into a continuing education opportunity. The idea here is that we want to work with lay people in congregational settings to help them figure out how they can lean into what, as John mentioned, is our mission, to be agents of justice and reconciliation and compassion in their community. So we want to work with congregational leaders to do things like study their history in ways that maybe they have not before, and how they have contributed and both to justice and injustice in their communities. We want to help them analyze their theological understanding and the ways that they maybe introduce morals or ethics to their congregation. How do they get engaged in their community? So either you may be connected to a congregation that you would like to see work through this program, or you may be the community leader that we need to connect our congregations with. So I could see there being multiple ways that you might be interested in serving. And again, if that feels like something that might be a fit for you or your organization, please connect with me. As I mentioned, we're just getting started. Our grant opened up January 1st. So we'll be on some research and development during this calendar year, but I anticipate that we'll have a lot of news to share in the future, including a landing page on our website for information about that. And then the final thing I just wanted to mention here is a program that we've housed under Baptist Commons, but is not at all targeted only to Baptist or even those with a faith experience. We're calling this Common Conversations, and during the pandemic, of course, it's been all virtual. We anticipate that when we're in a less virtual time frame, we'll be able to do these events on campus, but we also recognize that they may also always exist in a virtual way to connect with those who aren't local to Winston-Salem. These common conversations are conversations that we're arranging between experts and members of our faculty, moderated by our alumni. And the first theme that we've decided to tackle for this year is called The Weight of Racism. And then we've produced an episode on various aspects of that theme. You can either watch it on YouTube, you can listen to it on a podcast, or you can read the transcript if that's your preference. The first episode was on Christian nationalism. The second episode was on the Black church. The third episode was on the trauma of racism. And those are already available at this website. And then we will do 2 more this semester. We anticipate one coming out sometime in March on the white church response, and another one coming out probably in April or early May on the Black church response. And then probably in the fall, we'll switch to a different theme and continue on. So I encourage you first to watch it and learn more about the program that we're starting here. But also, if you see yourself in an expert and would love to have a dialogue with any of our faculty in some way, I'd love to learn more about you and what you could bring to this conversation. Or if you know someone that you'd like to introduce me to, I'd love to make that connection. Thanks again for having us. John and I are thrilled to represent the School of Divinity, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
So unfortunately, Steve Virgil from the law school wasn't able to join us tonight. He was not feeling very well. And so again, we'll share these slides. The law school has a really great directory that will allow you to email and connect with the folks depending on the clinic or the initiative that you want to connect with. And so we encourage you to do that after we send the slide deck at the conclusion of the event. Shelley, you are muted.
Thank you, Cam. Good evening. My name is Shelley Sizemore, and I serve as Director of Community Partnerships in the Office of Civic and Community Engagement at Wake Forest. Cam already gave a really nice overview of our area in the Office of Civic and Community Engagement, but I wanted to highlight a few specific current opportunities to partner with us. Of course, using this link at the bottom, which Cam also referred to, you can submit a request to have a follow-up conversation with a member of our team at any time. But here are some specific ways that we're recruiting partners to work together on projects. So a good amount of work that comes out of our office is project-based. And basically what that means is that we really work, as Cam mentioned, we have an area of our office that specifically works with direct service, but community partnerships is really focused more on specific activities that have maybe a short-term outcome and perhaps some long-term outcomes as well. And the volunteer engages kind of on a temporal basis with that opportunity. So one key way that we've been connecting undergraduate students with community partners is through part-time and full-time internships. For about 15 years, we've had the Summer Nonprofit Immersion Program, which pre-COVID was an 8-week residential nonprofit intensive experience for 13 undergraduates who all work full-time with community partners in the community or with nonprofits in the community for that 8-week period. Last summer, in response to COVID, we were actually able to increase the number of placements to 28 full-time summer interns placed at community partner sites for 8 weeks in June and July, and to an additional 27 part-time internships. So those were students that were working more in a project-based component, perhaps putting together a website or doing an assessment or creating some outreach materials, but not full-time for the summer. So right now we are recruiting summer sites for the summer of 2021. We're asking for nonprofits to identify on the application what kinds of outcomes you want to see from your summer intern so that we can make sure that we're recruiting and can recruit interns that have those skill sets that would be needed to complete those outcomes. We also ask you to identify if you can host an intern virtually, in person, or both. And that's really just because, as is true with most of us right now, we're not sure what the next few months are going to hold. And so we really want to make sure we're prepared and have a good idea of which organizations are capable of hosting virtually and in person, and which organizations really need one of the two consequences or two contexts specifically. The priority deadline for that is February 26th. The reason that we say priority deadline is because we will make decisions by about mid-March about our full-time internship placements. But part-time internships, we really do not have very many limitations on how many we can accept. We just work to fill those slots. So in order to kind of be in the first round of our recruitment of student interns, we ask that partner sites get their applications into us by the 26th. But if you have things that come up after that that are part-time, we're happy to hear about them on into the summer because we may be able to match students later on in the second cycle. Students who are a part of the internship program receive a lot of support from our office. So we provide nonprofit skill building workshops throughout the summer. We have check-in sessions at least weekly with them. We do a midterm and a final assessment with our partner sites. And we really try to work closely along with our partner site supervisors to make sure that the sites are getting a good return on their investment. We know how much effort goes into good supervision of interns, and our students learn so much from these experiences that we also want to make sure that the nonprofit partners get what they need. If you have any further questions about those internships, we would welcome your application. Please reach out to Camry Wilborn or to myself. Another piece about the internships is that we are open to collaborative projects. So if there are two organizations that are working on a specific project or an event together and they want to apply for an intern specifically to run that project or event or do some work for it over the summer, you can certainly apply. We just want you to be clear about who the supervisor is so we know who to follow up with. Another opportunity right now is to connect with Wake Forest faculty and staff through our high skill volunteer network. So the high skill volunteer network was piloted in the fall and is a partnership between our office and Hands On Northwest North Carolina to mobilize skill-based volunteers for nonprofits. So an example of a skill-based volunteer could be someone that is a landscaper and is willing to provide those landscaping skills pro bono. It could also be a person who maybe has experience with accounting in their job and would be willing to look over balance sheets for a local nonprofit. So a skill-based volunteer can really vary in what that skill is. Basically, the High Skill Volunteer Network is an attempt to identify Wake Forest faculty and staff and students with professional skills on campus who want to leverage those skills in short-term project-based placements with nonprofits. So if you are interested in the High Skill Volunteer Network as a member and joining it, you can go to our website and there's a form to just join the network that includes a skill assessment that you do of yourself that just lets us know kind of what you're bringing to the table and what you're prepared to offer to community partners. And Then after you complete that assessment, you'll be included in all of our outreach. We work with Hands On Northwest North Carolina to post the actual needs and listings for the partners. And so if you're a community partner who wants to have a skill-based volunteer come in for a period of time, you can reach out to Hands On, to Casey Capstick, their AmeriCorps, or to me. Thanks, Casey. I see you putting in the chat. Casey can help you with creating volunteer opportunities on the portal. Thanks, Casey. So another opportunity in our office is that we host a large AmeriCorps Vista project. AmeriCorps Vista members give a full year of service to their local communities through and receive a living stipend from the federal government. They also receive an education award at the end of their year of service. Our office hosts 18 full year Vista members and 1 Vista leader. And we're working right now to identify and determine our sites for the next year. Vistas are explicitly anti-poverty in focus. And so all Vista members are serving at nonprofits that in some way are really working to improve the lives of people living in poverty. If you are interested and think that you could support a full year Vista member, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can kind of talk about what that looks like moving forward. If you are interested in doing Vista for a year, a really important thing to note about AmeriCorps service is that you do not have to have gone to college. You just need to have graduated high school. So Vista can be a great gap year experience for even younger folks who have recently graduated. Can also be a great kind of mid-career thing if you're trying to think about a career in nonprofit work and just need a year to have a little bit of a paid internship. And it can be a really good way for recent college grads to explore what it looks like to work in nonprofit. We're really grateful to all of our 16 site partners on our AmeriCorps Vista project who supervise our Vistas day to day. And then Camry Wilborn, who opened us up today, has also been leading quite a few virtual tutoring and education programs through our office. So the virtual tutoring program is something that any parent or family member of a child that is in public school can request to receive a tutor that is a Wake Forest student. That tutor meets with the family once a week for an hour. Right now we have a short wait list, but we still are open if you want to join the wait list as we're trying to recruit more tutors all the time. If you're a student or a staff member that wants to be a tutor, you can contact Camry. In addition to virtual tutoring, we have a partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters on a virtual big mentoring program where basically undergraduate students are able to serve as bigs for the kids that are on the waiting list for Big Brothers Big Sisters while they wait to receive their permanent big. If you're interested in any of that, we also are launching a few more tutoring or mentoring and education programs throughout the spring. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Cam. So the last thing I'll just mention is that if you use this link when we send the slides out after this link takes you to our drop-down menu that really talks about a lot of the different resources that are either offered through our office or through other groups at Wake that we work with. The best way to get connected with us is to fill out that form. Somebody, either myself, Camry, or Rhea Matheson, who, thank you, Rhea is running tech for this, will follow up with you to learn more about the ways we can partner. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks, Shelley, and thank you to all of our lovely panelists who talked about the amazing community engagement work and initiatives at the university. At this time, we're gonna turn it over to our Q&A portion. We do have a couple of questions that have been submitted. If you are watching and you have a question for one of the panelists here, please make sure that you input that into the Q&A feature or the chat. I'm monitoring both and can get it to the correct panelists. So our first question is from Abby McCall. She wants to know, do partner sites for the internship program need to provide a stipend or share cost of a stipend? And so I think John Senior from the Divinity School, and then Shelley, if you want to talk about our internship program as well.
Our internship partners we don't require that they provide a stipend. Students are enrolled in courses and get course credit for their internship work. We certainly encourage that, but we understand also that there are organizations and faith communities that just aren't able to provide those resources, and we don't want to exclude them from participating in our internship program. So for us, the answer is no, but we certainly would encourage partner organizations to provide some support if they can.
So for our summer interns, our full-time interns are actually supported by our office. And that's done in a couple of different ways. So in the past, we have provided a stipend and some living arrangements for them when they were in person. This past summer, we were able to connect the summer internships with the Summer Associates Program through AmeriCorps. And so those students were actually temporary VISTA members, basically 2-month VISTA members, and received stipends from the federal government. In that case, sites actually are prohibited from providing any additional support because they're already receiving federal support, and that's the terms of AmeriCorps. Our part-time internships, we do not provide any incentives when it comes to like cash stipends or even credit hours. During the school year, there is an option for credit hours on a project called the Pro Humanitate Corps that Dr. Alexander, Alana, and Yasmin and I have all worked on year interns with community partner placements, and then they can receive credit. So short story is in the summer, part-time interns don't receive anything compensation wise from us. So if partners can provide that, they will welcome it. And most of the students that come into the part-time role are really looking for it as an experience to kind of buoy their resume and are not as dependent on earning their primary income from that experience. With full-time, we provide the incentives.
Thank you. And it looks like there's another question for both of you. How well trained are students in anti-racism cultural competency practice, and how many hours are the students doing and over what period of time? So 2 separate questions there.
Excuse me, as far for the School of Divinity students, they receive cultural competency training as part of the Master of Divinity curriculum. Some of that happens actually in the Art of Ministry program, some of it happens elsewhere. So by the end of their 3 years in that program, they have certainly a proficiency, I guess, I would say, in cultural competency. And, also a pretty in-depth exposure to understandings of structural forms of injustice in lots of different courses. That's kind of par for every course at the School of Divinity. So I think they have a fairly proficient in that regard. And our students are doing 200 hours in their internship placements of 200 hours of service work. In the summer format, that typically happens in six to 8 weeks. So they're doing 20 to 40 hours a week. We try to get students to make those summer internships closer to a full-time experience, so they can feel what it's like to show up for work and kind of be in a full-time role. The academic year internship placements are also 200 hours. They go from August to May. But they're part-time alongside of the normal coursework that students are doing. So they do something like 8 to 10 hours a week on average.
So when it comes to the internships that we're running out of the Office of Civic and Community Engagement, all of our interns, part-time and full-time, are required to participate in the onboarding orientation. The full-time interns have significantly more required training, but all of our interns are invited. So part-time interns can attend the trainings that we do throughout the summer as well, and workshops. A core part of our orientation is cultural competence training. It's training around how to communicate across difference, but it's also a pretty deep dive into Winston-Salem and kind of the particularities of our local context, where we see injustice is showing up, and really with our local context. So that's a big part of onboarding of all of the interns. Then throughout the summer, we have Friday seminars where we're doing kind of pretty consistent reflection throughout the summer around key themes. And a lot of those themes relate to kind of identity, who the student is, how that is connecting with the work that they're doing in the community. As far as hours, our students for the full-time interns, it's 8 weeks at 40 hours a week. So it's a pretty significant time commitment for the students. And then for part-time interns, usually that has looked like anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks for maybe 10 to 15 hours a week. But again, that's a lot more flexible, and we work with community partners on that. So if they say, you know, we really just need like somebody for 3 weeks before this big event in July, right? That's also something that we work with partners to scope for community, for student interns.
And then Shelley, did you cover the amount of hours and time that students are working? Okay. Okay. There is one more question. So I have a question for Keena Moore. Is the Boost Award in partnership with WFU faculty and staff, or is the award granted to nonprofits doing their own research?
So it's not an academic researcher, it's to community-based organizations specific only.
Are there any other questions for our panelists? We do have one question. Are the same types of contextual training and inequities and justice in our community offered for community members? It was awesome to hear both John and Shelley describe the intentionality for the Div School and undergraduate students. Many community members are seeking out those type of conversations as well.
So one of the ways that we incorporate community members into our trainings is that any partner site for the internships in the summer is invited to participate in the trainings as well. And I found that really enriches the space for students. And so, you know, granted, that means that you are part of the internship program, and, you know, with the part-time internship, the popularity of part-time internships with our students, we really have a lot of partners. So if you want an intern, there's a good chance we're going to be able to at least find someone part-time. When it comes to other types of kind of conversations around difference and about equity and justice, Deb Mark in our office has led a few social justice book club conversations. There's actually one that is launching for this spring that we can include when we send the slides out after this, that she is leading along with our environmental justice community, knowledge community, which is a discussion group. So they are reading the book All We Can Save, which is an anthology about specifically the intersections of environmental work and justice work, and is primarily authored, the chapters are primarily authored by women of color, and it's co-edited by 2 women. So that is being done by the Office of Sustainability this semester and the Women's Center, and then Deb Mark and our Social Justice Book Club are providing a space where any community member can, that wants to be a part of a book discussion, can sign up and be part of a book circle. That will include Wake Forest community members, faculty, staff, students, Winston-Salem community folks. So we try to really amplify opportunities like that. It also sounds like from what Natalie said, that there's really some opportunities for that coming up, right? If they don't already exist through the Baptist Commons. And I know that kind of there's other spaces on campus as well that do pop-ups. Call to Conversation has done pop-up conversations in the past. I know that John has convened some conversations for faith communities. They've done some things at Wake Downtown. So yeah, I think that is something that we've kind of done in our own spaces, I think, in the past. And this is the first of many times where we're trying to centralize all of those opportunities for folks.
I would just add that in addition to the opportunities we talked about tonight, the School of Divinity offers a range of occasional conversations and presentations and other offerings for community folks to participate in that often have to do with these themes. For example, this year we've convened a book club around anti-racist pedagogy, where we've read Blood Done Sign My Name, Cast, and a couple other things. So those are just more occasional offerings that that you have to kind of look out for, get on the Div School email list to hear about.
I will add to that, if you are looking for a guest speaker or somebody who has a particular expertise on a topic to lead a discussion with your community group, the High School Volunteer Network is a great place to submit that request. So we had some requests from some organizations wanting people who are really well versed in diversity and inclusion, right? And we're able to share that with our identity offices and our Office of Diversity and Inclusion to get some of the folks who are staff in those offices to lead those workshops. And so if you want someone with a particular expertise, we can definitely do our best to try and reach out to them and for them to leverage that particular resource for your organization. There is a question in the chat. Are you all aware of any partnerships with refugee, immigrant, and newcomer communities in the region? And that can be open to anybody who might have that information.
So there's several faculty at Wake Forest that are really connected to refugee and immigrant communities. We have a chapter of Every Campus a Refuge, which was started originally at Guilford College as a way to support refugee communities and really try to intentionally leverage the resources of refugee communities, or the resources of universities rather, to serve refugee communities. We have a student organization called SAFAR, which is an acronym, Student Association for the Advancement of Refugees, I think. I hope that I got that, switched A's around. So that group does tutoring and mentoring specifically with refugee families. In the past, we and currently have had Wake Forest students who've worked as interns at World Relief, whether that's through a full-time internship or a part-time internship. I know also that there's a new clinic that I've seen that is starting through the medical school that or through the hospital that's going to be specifically targeting refugee and immigrant families. Through our VISTA project, we also work, one of our site placements is Latino Community Services. And so that VISTA is specifically working on leveraging resources for the populations that LCS serves.
Thank you. And then we have another question. What are students expected to get, acquire as a part of their experience being interns?
At the School of Divinity, for the School of Divinity internships, at the beginning of every internship process, students and their mentors work on a learning plan. It's a pretty extensive blueprint for the students' learning, which helps the student and the internship setting sort out the students' roles and responsibilities. We, as Shelley said before, we encourage students to understand that while they will have some learning goals that they would like to achieve in their internship work, the internship setting is going to have some needs that they will want interns to fill. And so we understand that kind of coming to an agreement about what the learning plan is going to be is a kind of process of negotiation. There are kind of two layers, I would say, to students learning in our internship program, and it depends. The kind of skills and practices of leadership layer, and kind of broader learning goals that are relevant to the student's own development. And so that first layer around leadership practices really depends on what kind of internship setting it is. So if it's a congregation, the leadership practices would be things like preaching and worship leadership, pastoral care, religious education, and so on. For a nonprofit setting, that might be program development and assessment, financial leadership. And we kind of structure different learning plans depending on the internship setting. And then in addition to that, we ask students to define learning goals for themselves in a number of different areas: personal development, professional development, spiritual development, and a few other things. So that's less dependent. That layer is kind of less dependent on the conversation with the mentor, but it's still present for the student in their learning process.
So one of our primary goals with the full-time summer internships in particular was just to be able to provide some support for students who want to pursue a career in nonprofits and maybe can't afford to take unpaid internship. And at the same time as we're doing that, for the student, that also then becomes a resource for the community partner because they have this person that they're not having to pay for. You know, really what our students expect to get out of internships is learning, to what John was saying. And they also expect to get out of it some real practical experience. For many of them, it's their first time working in an office. So you can imagine how bizarre that was for them this summer. It's their first time in like a 40-hour-a-week job, and they don't actually go to the office at any point in the summer this past summer. So, you know, it was really amazing just to see how our students and our community partners like to support each other even in those moments. So really learning is the key thing that students are expecting to come away with, as well as those kind of tangible outcomes that they can talk about, you know, on future job applications. I did this or this or this with this organization in the past.
Thank you. I do not see any more questions from our attendees. So I will turn it back over to Shelley, who's going to close us out for the evening.
So thank you all for being here this evening. Again, thank you to our wonderful panelists from Wake Downtown, from the School of Medicine, Program and Community Engagement, and from the Divinity School. We really appreciate you all making time tonight and appreciate everyone who got on the call. Again, this is the first of many attempts to do some bigger events together. So we hope you'll stay tuned. And look for the slide deck and with you at any point in the follow up to this event tonight. Thanks to Rhea Matheson and Camry Wilborn for putting this all together and creating promotional materials and running all the tech. And thanks again to our panelists.